Welcome to the Blind Justice Podcast, where you discover the insider secrets of injury and accident cases, and all of your law questions get answered. Now, here's your host, Chicago injury lawyer, Scott DeSalvo.
Hey guys, we're back with a new podcast. As always, your host, Scott DeSalvo, and of course, my co-host, Amelia Finnefrock.
Hello, hello.
And today's topic is Nursing Home Abuse Cases 101. So I'm doing some advertising for nursing home cases, and so I've decided that, there are about three things that I didn't even know about nursing home cases before I started before I started educating myself and I started handling them. And these are like three things that I think are sort of interesting and important, and more people, I hope, would have access to this information. So I figured, decent topic for a podcast, yes?
It's heartbreaking.
Well, it's sad, right?
I'm going to warn you right now, get a box of tissues, because these stats make me want to cry.
Yeah, no, it's right. I mean, that's a good point. Like the equities involved in somebody who's in a nursing home that is being injured or neglected or abused.
You see it in movies and TV shows all the time, but I think everyone has that one person they know that's in a nursing home, and to think, oh my goodness, that could be happening to my person.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to. No family wants to have to be in a situation where their loved one gets sick,
right, and
they can't care for them anymore, right? Like it's a nightmare scenario. But what do you do? Like, it's funny because we're born as children and we're helpless, and then our whole life is about getting older and getting smarter and getting stronger and becoming more independent. You hit your adolescent years and you're fighting for your independence and trying to discover who you are, and then you become an adult, right?
And then you're like, take me back.
No, that's funny, right? So you have challenges when you're an adult, and you're like, I wish somebody would take care of me. Like, this sucks. Yeah. It's hard to be an adult.
Yes, it is.
But then you get better at being an adult as you're an adult longer and longer,
as they say. Yeah.
And then you become very independent. And then as you're you could get sick earlier in life and have to go to a nursing home.
Yeah.
If you're if you've got physical limitations or problems that your family can't care for you. But then as you go through the stage of life where you're getting older, your brain's not working that well, you physically can't care for yourself anymore. And so it's sort of a cruel joke that your whole life you fought towards independence and being able to be competent and take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And then at end life, like life takes away your independence.
Right.
And so what a family does in these nursing home cases is they say, it breaks our heart, but we know that our loved one has a problem and physical limitations that we can't take care of.
Right.
Like, I work, my wife works, and there's nobody to be home with mom or dad, and he or she can't be there by themselves. Or we literally live in a small apartment. There's no room for them.
Sure. And
they want to stay in their apartment, but they physically can't do it, right? Like it's...
And having a live-out nurse come and check on them, that's an investment. That's not easy.
Yeah, it's super expensive, and like with the way Medicare and Medicaid and some insurances work, it's actually... like the only way financially you can do it is to put them into a nursing home versus trying to have somebody come into the house and help them.
And then you want to make sure that that home's reputation is solid and that there haven't been signs of past abusive situations. It's a definite stressor for sure.
Yeah, and then you have the same problem with people who come into people's homes to care for them. Like, who are they?
Right. You're inviting a stranger into your home.
Yeah, so
your job is to take care of them, but
and
you want people the benefit of the doubt. But
so not only for insurance reasons, you might have to put a loved one in a nursing home, but also for, what are you going to do? Hire 3 people to stay with your parent around the clock? Like, I mean, there are 3 8-hour shifts in 24 hours. So Are you going to hire somebody to live with them 24 hours a day? Or are you going to hire 2 people for 12-hour shifts or 8 people?
Right.
I mean, most working people, there's no way they could ever afford that, right?
No.
So it's easy sometimes to say, well, I'd never put my loved one in a nursing home. Sometimes you have literally no choice.
Right.
This is what we can agree on, though. It's never a friggin' happy choice.
No.
Like,
right.
when it's a heartbreaking choice, and the level of betrayal that you feel when you give your loved one to a nursing home and you tell them, it breaks our heart to do this, but this is the best place we can afford.
Right.
And here are my loved one's problems, and they're all documented in their medical records.
Right.
And furthermore, I'm going to tell you what the problems are. And please care for them. We know that you won't care for them the way we would.
Right.
But do the minimum, right? And then when they don't,
what a slap in the face.
it's a betrayal, right? It's like we're going to take your money, we're going to take the government's money that they pay us to care for your loved one, and then we're going to let them lie in a bed and not rotate them and not move them to the point where they get bed sores. You know, it's a nightmare, right? They're really, really tough cases. So,
well, one of my stats that I'm seeing on our fact sheet that Genevieve so kindly put together, a study found that 44% of nursing home residents report abuse and 95% report neglect of themselves or other residents within the past year. 95%? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's
Really?
two categories, right? So abuse is when you're actually being like hit
right? Like
and
physical.
yeah, right.
Or
It's
not.
where they're doing something affirmative to hurt you.
Right.
And then neglect is just the doctor's order says that you can't turn over yourself. I mean, the bed sores are a very common nursing home injury. And so neglect would be the order says you must equip their bed with a turning mechanism or give them their special beds and mattresses
Right.
for people who can't move, which reduce the chance of developing a bed sore, and then they just don't do it. Neglect means you're not making sure they're eating, you're not taking care of them, you're not making sure that they get to the bathroom or that they're taking their meds, or that you just leave them in a bed until they develop bed sores, which is a friggin' nightmare.
I may be getting ahead of myself, but when we're talking about these stats, it makes me wonder, like, what the process is for having these caretakers in these in nursing
Sure.
homes. Like, what's the criteria, and is it rigorous to get in? And if not, should it be more challenging? Because these are, the people who raised us, and we're handing them over, and I have
even
so
though
much
it's
respect
not
for nurses. Like, oh my goodness,
even though it's not completely voluntary, like we wish
Right.
we had another option, but a lot of
Right.
times you don't have another option.
Yeah.
So here's the deal with that, right? So you can hire people to work at nursing homes who have very minimal credentials, right?
Yeah.
And the nursing home is a business. It's a for-profit business. So if the number of patients times how much Medicare or Medicaid pays the nursing home, that's their budget.
Right.
And so,
Or waiting list, right?
right. So it's like running a business where our property taxes are X, our employee payments, salaries and wages are X, and they run the businesses in order to return a profit to the owners of the nursing home, right? And so a lot of based on me looking at these cases, being involved in these cases, I can tell you a lot of times you do get some bad apple nurses in there, right? But there are also
any
nice
profession.
people,
Oh.
right?
Yes.
There are also nice people who do the work,
Right.
and it is it's a thankless business,
Yes, it is.
and it is management that overloads them, and they know they're not giving good care.
Right. Right.
Because if a nurse...
They're overworking their nurses.
Yeah,
yes,
right.
Absolutely.
So they should have 10 patients in order to check in on them, and they give them 35.
Yeah, that's...
And
it's ridiculous.
Right, and so there's oftentimes there's a lot of turnover in those places. So at the end of the day, and this is what I tell the people at my law firm, I own the law firm, they work with me, I treat them well, and I listen to their feedback about how things could be better done, what's the efficiency, and I'm very hands-on in checking in with what's going on in the office. Imagine what my law firm would be like if I never came into the office and I didn't really care and I didn't watch what was going on.
Right.
And let's say I didn't hire qualified lawyers and really skilled, compassionate people like I do. I just hired whoever I could get the cheapest.
Right.
And then I didn't pay attention to what they did.
Someone would be suing you, right?
No, right. It wouldn't be, it would be the wrong thing to do. And frankly, we only turn people over to nursing homes who we know are damn sick.
Right.
So many of them can't communicate effectively.
Yep.
And so what we're doing is when a nursing home basically says, I'm going to go get the least qualified people, I'm not going to supervise them, and I'm not going to train them, and then I'm going to load them down with too much work. And if somebody ends up dying or getting hurt really bad,
we can just say, oh, it's because they're sick.
Hey, look, man, we had a nurse.
Dying.
Yeah, right. This kind of crap. So,
well, I remember to interrupt you for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
When my great grandma, when we put her in the home before she passed away, they had told us most people only stay here like 6 to 10 months. And part of that was like, wow. And they'd say, oh, it's because they're far from their families. But part of me, the skeptic in me, was like, or what if it's because it's higher turnover for you and you can get more money? Like,
right.
I don't want to think like that. But part of me is like, geez, that's such a... By the way, like, most people only live here 6 to 10 months. That's the stat.
Yeah, it's a weird
long.
Stat, right?
Like,
it's
really?
if somebody told me that stat, I would be like, okay, so what percentage of those people spend time? Because a lot of people don't know this, but this is true. What percentage of people come here just to help recover, and then get to go home or go to a different facility?
Right.
How many of them are at the nursing home and then decline to the point where they need to go to a hospice care, which is basically like a hospital unit where a person just goes to die when there's nothing else that can be done for them? And then how many people here die while they're at your nursing home, right? Those are some of the things that... And then how many people have their loved ones here and the conditions are so bad that they pull them out of this nursing home and put them in a different one, right? So there's a saying, it's called, there are lies, damned lies, and then statistics, right? Mm-hmm. So I like statistics because if they're honest statistics in the proper context, it tells you a story, right? But you can cite statistics that are not going to help you. So there's a couple of things I want to talk about. The first one is, like in any injury case, the more serious and permanent the consequences, the more viable the case. In other words, if somebody is hurt a little bit but they get better right away, it is hard for a lawyer to economically justify handling the case.
Of course.
Right? Because nursing home cases are defended a lot like medical malpractice cases. So they bring out the big guns, they fight the cases tooth or nail.
Right.
Very few of them settle. Like if you sue a nursing home, it's probably going to be a lawsuit. So, I will occasionally get a call from somebody who's in a nursing home and they call me and they're like, well, they're mean to me. They're not nice to me. That's horrible. They should be nice to you, but it takes something more than that to actually have a lawsuit. Right. The other thing I wanted to say is that I think is important, like two of the most common incidents that occur in nursing homes, we already talked a little bit about. One is bed sores. Yes. Like when somebody has limited or no mobility, at a bad nursing home, they put them in a bed and just let them sit there until they develop pressure sores or and then those things get infected, and it can be horrible, especially in a person who's older, who's already sick.
Or their immune system's already compromised.
Right. And then once there's an infection, big problem, right? So the other thing is I see tons of fall down cases, right? And so when somebody is admitted into a nursing home, they're supposed to do a fall assessment, right? And so anybody with any sort of limited mobility, the nursing home is required to do a fall risk assessment. And it's basically a plan that they develop as to how they're going to address this person who doesn't walk too well.
Right.
And so it's amazing to me, but in a lot of these fall cases I look at that occur in a nursing home, the nursing home is literally not following their own fall assessment, or they're doing it in like the cheap-ass way they possibly can.
Right.
I actually consulted with another law firm on a nursing home case. They brought me in to help them like work on it pre-suit. And they decided that like an orderly helping a person who's like an overweight big person, just helping them physically was an acceptable substitute to a mechanical lift.
Nope.
Which was horrible. And then the person falls, they break their hip, and that becomes the linchpin that causes their degeneration and death. So it's not. So we were talking about how they hire the cheapest staff they can get, but then they also utilize that staff in the cheapest way they can, and in ways that when you look at it, it's clear as day it's a bad idea.
Well, let me ask you this. Are there cameras in the main? I assume there are cameras in like the main hallways of nursing homes. Yes.
Okay, so sometimes there are, and sometimes there aren't, and the law doesn't.
That's what I want. I want. If we have to put cameras on cops' vests to protect us, then maybe we should have cameras in our loved ones' areas where we're not there, right? Like a nanny cam, kind of.
Yeah. So, as far as I know, that's an interesting question. By the way, cops are not required to wear cameras on their vests.
I thought that was
I think it's a good idea, right?
It was.
So
maybe they did away with that.
I think it's a great idea. I think the police union is fighting it. They don't want them to do it.
They have dash cams. I think that's
right.
What it is.
Dash cams. Right.
And I think I got that confused with the vests.
Yeah, my opinion, and this is sort of off topic, but we can talk about it a little bit. Welcome to our standard operating procedure is going off topic, but I generally recognize that being a cop in a big city is a nightmare job.
I'm sure.
On the flip side, I talk to a lot of people who get treated very poorly by cops. Right. And to me, it's a great way to solve the problem of, on the one hand, overzealous cops or just mean cops who like to beat on people. Right. And on the flip side, this suggestion that, which have been proven in a couple of cases, where you get a group of people together who say certain things happened and it was all the cop's fault, and then later you realize that the guy who ended up getting shot was actually like punching a cop while he got shot, right? A camera would solve all of that. And so I don't understand why police unions are, like, if they had a deal with the police department that they would wear the cameras, but the police will not be tracked because they took 5 extra minutes on lunch or something like that, right?
I could understand from their perspective, like, that must be a little annoying, always being watched.
Right.
But then when we have these big cases, right, with everything that's going on, it would be so helpful to be like, well, what really went on?
No, 100%. And here's the thing, like,
seems
Baltimore,
like an easy problem to fix.
Yeah, Baltimore rioting in other cities, if you could easily bring out the tape to show that somebody was doing something that justified lethal force or justified physical whatever, it would completely diffuse the situation. And guess what? It's important for the flip side reason too. Right. If the cop truly is a bad cop, the good cops should want to get rid of that guy. 100%, right? But there's that whole thin blue line which frustrates the shit out of me. Like, I have friends who are cops who are good guys. Mm-hmm. And but it's like you're either on the team or you're not on the team. Right. You're either cop or you're not cop.
Right.
And if you step out of line, your career's going nowhere.
Totally.
So cameras would help. But in nursing homes, there's no requirement or law that nursing homes have cameras.
How?
And then there's also, at least in common areas, it would be good, right? And then I think there's like privacy concerns for videotaping people in their private rooms.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Right, I can understand if they're changing,
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, at some point, wouldn't you waive the privacy law if you knew that? And then there's also an expense, right? So if you're a nursing home with like 100 rooms, you're going to have like 500 cameras. You got to have
someone to watch all those cameras.
Right, and then a system to record all that data. Like 500, not even like high res, like even if you had 720p or less resolution, right? That's a lot of data. That's like probably terabytes of data a day. And then what happens if their system goes down? Is a guy like me going to sue them because their system went down?
Right.
They were negligent in not maintaining their blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
so unless the law, unless the law comes in and requires people to do it, I don't see cameras in nursing homes. But that's like a great answer. I did a focus group on nursing homes, and that was the same thing the people said at the focus group on the case I was focus grouping. Right. People were like, well, is there video? Like, we want to see the video of what happened. And I'm like, well, if there's no video, whose fault is that, right?
Right.
But, yeah, video would solve a lot of this. But I would say that the two most common pure nursing home cases are bed sore cases where people are neglected and falls and drops, where the rules, the fall assessment is not followed, right? And so the other thing about nursing home is, like, whenever somebody gets hurt, we always talk about, we kind of go from a common sense standpoint, like, why would they do that?
Right.
But, there are federal rules and state rules for nursing homes that say exactly what they're supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do.
And on this fact sheet, it says that almost 1/3 of the nursing homes in the U.S. were cited for violating those regulations and could lead to the actual harm of a resident during a 2-year period.
Yeah, and the funny thing about that is that's just the ones they catch.
Yeah, exactly. Right, that's just the ones that we hear about.
I'm a big fan of the cookie jar theory, which is if you catch somebody's hand in the cookie jar, it ain't the first time they put their hand in the cookie jar, right?
Yeah, that's a great.
So it's nursing homes to a large degree are in crisis. The fact that they're still open means they are still fabulously profitable, but the balance needs to change, right? The balance between what these people do to keep their businesses profitable versus the safety of residents, it needs to change.
So when you get a nursing home case, is this an easy case for you, or is it complicated because there is not video footage?
Right. So
you're going off what, like maybe secondhand information, like
100%. That's exactly what I was about to say, which is if somebody passed away and the nursing home is in control of the records that are being kept, the nursing home can not document the details of what happened. And they control the employees, right, who may have seen what happened. So these can be really tricky cases.
This makes me angry. Like, talking about this just makes me angry.
Well, it's horrible, right?
Why hasn't this been... I feel like this needs to be talked about more. And we're talking about it.
Yeah, and honestly, one of the big reasons why I am advertising more in nursing home and I'm interested in taking on more nursing home cases is because of the equities involved, right? I feel like more could be done, and if we have to fight this, like, as a trial lawyer, the only thing I can do is fight these cases on a case-by-case basis and make it so financially painful for them not to follow safety rules that they start following them, right? And that's why I like these. Scenario. And they're also more complicated cases, more complex cases, and it's sometimes, I love doing car crash cases. I love doing fall-down cases. I'm very good at them. Yeah. Obviously, I'm open for business if anybody has a car crash or fall-down case. But But sometimes it's interesting to handle a different kind of case, and nursing home cases are sometimes more medically complicated because you wouldn't be in a nursing home unless you had like a medical problem to begin with, right?
Right.
So I want to do more of them because of the equities. The other thing is, like, if you were I guess the last thing I want to say about nursing home cases that a lot of people don't know, and I guess lawyers don't tell people this, but I like people to be informed. Right. There's a fee shifting provision. So if you go to trial and against a nursing home and you win any amount of money, technically the nursing home has to pay the plaintiff's lawyer fee.
What?
And that scares the crap out of nursing homes if you've put together a good case. Oh. So in other words, you put together a good case, the nursing home sees that you've put together a good case, they may be knocking on your door to settle the case. Right. But only if you have a lawyer who's put together a strong case. Because if they settle the case for a fair amount of money, then they don't have to worry about attorney's fees. Okay? So let's say we have a case that we evaluate, and it's a case that we think's worth about $150,000, right? And we know that there's always a risk that you could get a not guilty, right? Because in Illinois, juries have to be unanimous. If we get one person who says no,
really,
and they won't change their mind, it's a hung jury. We got to do the entire trial again.
Wow.
So let's say there's some things about the case, as there usually are, that make us worried that it's not a slam dunk, right? So if we've assessed the value of the case at $150,000, and the nursing home offers $100,000, I might tell my client to take it because bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, right? And it's better to avoid the risk of a trial if we think there's a chance that we could lose.
Right.
And there always is, let's face it.
Sure.
But let's say the insurance company says, we're going to offer you $20,000. Or what if the nursing home insurance company goes to you and says, now we don't think you can win the trial. We're not going to offer anything. Well, in that case, it's greatly to the benefit of our client that we take the case to trial. Because if we go to trial and even if we just win $20,000, the other side has to pay our attorney's fees.
Right.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So it makes the insurance companies that do these nursing home defenses before we file a lawsuit, it makes them very aggressive to say no, 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 and to do whatever they can to dissuade us from filing a lawsuit. Because if they can quash a case before a lawsuit's filed, great for them, right?
Sure.
They save money.
Right.
But once we're in suit, if they're not coming with reasonable money, the risk is on them because, they're going to end up paying the lawyer fee.
Right.
So that's something that a lot of people don't know. I mean, super sad cases, right?
Right.
I could talk about it all day, but there's I'm going to do we'll do another nursing home podcast another day.
We still have a lot of facts I didn't get to.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about. There's like some
controversial.
Yeah, and there's some things I want to tell people about what they should do if they're involved. Like, what are the 5 things you got to do if you suspect an injury at a nursing home? But we're almost at 30 minutes, and I try and keep these podcasts like 20 to 30 minutes, and we always go off the rails. So
too much to talk about.
You got you've already mentioned that you're going to be in that improv show pretty soon.
Yes.
And no word on the address or dates yet?
No, I believe it'll be sometime in the summer, but I'll have more info, hopefully within the coming weeks, about the details. But this past weekend, fun little thing, I sang on a up-and-coming artist in Chicago's album. I can't disclose any more information, but I'm really excited about it.
Awesome.
And,
pretty soon.
Yeah.
Well, when you can disclose, do disclose, and maybe maybe the folks listening will check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for listening, folks. I know it was a somber topic, but it's an important topic. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Take care.
Thanks for listening. I truly hope that the information in the podcast helps you no matter the situation you find yourself in. But you might need more answers or some more direct help. So there are 3 ways for you easily to find out more and to get help. If you call my toll-free 24-hour helpline, 888-HURT-318, you'll have a couple of options. 888-HURT-318 is my toll-free 24-hour telephone line. You can call that number and speak with my team night or day. First, you can call 888-HURT-318, and you can speak to me for a free consultation about your case or situation. That's always free and no obligation. Second, you can tell the operator that you'd like a free copy of my injury DVD and book. I created the DVD and book, and I give it away for free to injured people who need answers but who might not be ready to talk to a lawyer yet. Same deal, 100% free, 100% no obligation. Third and finally, you can check out my YouTube channel for informative videos about the injury case and claims process, or check out my other podcasts for more information and interesting interviews with people who know different things about various aspects of the law. I've put all of this together to help you and to answer your questions. Now, you can also help me, and I hope that you will. If you enjoyed the podcast and if it helped you at all, please subscribe, and if you can, take a minute and please post a positive review of the show. If you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you know anyone who might enjoy the podcast, please spread the word and share it on Facebook. It's my mission to spread good information to as many people as possible, and your liking and reviewing and subscribing to the podcast helps me get the word out. Thanks again. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It doesn't substitute for consulting with a lawyer. If you have a case, speak with a lawyer right away.